What is up, sports fans of the world? We are back with episode 4 of Sideline Chatter with Vic. You know, I am Sideline Eli, and we got our guy Vic over here. So, let's dive right into it. We're going to be talking purely NFL on this episode. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about, and we're going to dedicate this segment to it all. So, we're going to kick things off. Patriots, Bills, 24-21. Buffalo comes out with the win. But should they have? What do you got for us, Vic?
I think we all know that obviously the Patriots aren't really trying to win per se, but I love this because this is a competitive game. It stayed competitive from the literally the first drive with Drake May and the offense just clicking instantly. That's what I want to see from them. Like even when we're not trying to win, I want to see them have some type of life. He threw a dart to I think his name's Keyshawn Booty for the first touchdown of the game, and it was a perfect pass.
I saw that
I think
highlight.
he's yeah, it was
That was a dime.
Yeah, he threw that, and I was like, "Okay, this isn't it's not like we're playing like the, overpowered Bills team that everyone's like, getting scored like 42 on. We're playing our ball." And throughout the game that you can if you watch the game, or if you look back at the highlights, Drake May's slicing and dicing, but our run game was so weak. Ramondre Stevenson had a hard time holding onto the ball. Antonio Gibson had a hard time also. I think we failed a fourth down. Oh, no, we converted, but the run game really wasn't as strong as it usually is, though. I know we have Antonio Gibson as like just like a secondary back just for the sake of it. And I like him as a pass catcher, running back, kind of like an Austin Eckler type.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if Ramondre had two fumbles or if they each had one, but both those fumbles were really costly. I know one was right at the goal line, and then the other one was like at the 50. And so that really hurt our game because when you look at the stats, we were lighting the Bills on fire all game. Like we had more pass yards, more total yards, and they were just getting penalties left and right. So they had like three pass interference calls in like one drive on us, which really helped our game progress to where it could be at least within 3 points. But the Bills, they're always going to find a way to win. Josh Allen's going to find his way, even not playing the best ball. James Cook 60-yard touchdown. That's not going to help any. That's not going to help any of the morale throughout the game. Josh Allen's going to slice and dice our defense whenever he can, and yeah, it's just one of those games where it's like we lose, but Drake May looks good. The offensive line looks good. We're not taking as many sacks as like we should. Like we took 2 sacks. That's not, in my opinion, that's a win in my book versus what the stat sheet would say. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's hard. It's one of those things to where, you know, bad plays are going to happen over the course of a game. So definitely you have quarterbacks that add to the sack total and you have quarterbacks that help take away from it. So obviously, when you only come away with, I think anywhere between 0 and 2, I think that's definitely more of a win than a loss in the trenches. Um, and Gibson did fumble, unfortunately. That's my guy. Uh, he does look like he struggled as well on the ground. 10 carries, 28 yards, so that's only 2.8 and a fumble. So he also was your secondary rusher, 10 carries. Stevenson had 12. So almost 50-50 split between those two. May carried 6 times. Looks like Demario Douglas had one, and Pettis had one as well. So, I mean, they pretty much split duties almost. And, to get 2.8, a carry, and a fumble is definitely not going to cut it. So, it definitely, by all means, I didn't catch this game. We played at the same time. But this looks like Josh Allen's worst game of the season. And just by all means, it looks like a game that the Bills probably should not have won. Um, I think overall there are some building blocks. Maybe not, MVP or elite all pro level guys, but there are definitely some players that the Patriots have to build around that aren't named Drake May. And we've touched on it I think almost in every episode, but I can't reiterate enough that when you have a quarterback like Drake May, as a rookie especially, when the offseason rolls around, that's a guy that players around the league go, yeah, I would play for that team with him under center. I think that team has a good chance to go someplace if they have the right pieces, and I could be one of those pieces. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be a wide receiver, running back, or a lineman. It could be a defender. So I do ultimately like where the Patriots could be going. And I fully agree with you to where these are the type of games that you almost live for. Like, yeah, you lost, and it's never fun to lose, but the better the draft pick, the higher your probability of landing a true difference maker in the draft. But you didn't come out and look bad. I mean, at three and came into the game at 3-11. Guys already know what a bad losing season is like. A couple more losses isn't going to really change their feelings much. But a couple more wins can definitely knock you way down the draft board. So yeah, definitely. I think ultimately a win for the Patriots. Because like you said, you come out, you actually look pretty good. A game that you probably should have won against, in my opinion, the Super Bowl team out of the AFC. We'll talk more about that later. So yeah, I think that's actually a pretty successful day, even though you don't come away with the win.
Yeah, Josh. I mean, our secondary played phenomenal. Josh Allen only threw for 154, a touchdown and interception, but the star of the game was James Cook. He rushed 11 times for 100 yards and a touchdown. He was leading receiver with 3 catches, 26 yards and a touchdown. But obviously, I don't really care that throw the running back stats aside, though. They didn't really have anything against us. Matt Collins, Khalil Shakir, Dawson Knox, all those like people that have been difference makers. Keon Coleman were locked down all day. Couldn't find them.
And
You're
it's
not even
like
getting say what you said.
it's like not to bring the Commanders into it, but it's kind of like a lot of people have. There was a little narrative going on in the beginning, going into the season from the draft that Caleb Williams was going into a really great offense with a bunch of weapons, and Jaden Daniels had Terry McLaurin, and then what else? But you kind of see how the difference in the offenses are, and it's because no shade at Caleb Williams, but when things are clicking and grooving and you got that guy at quarterback, they're dropping it in the bucket, they're making the passes, they can make a guy that might not be a top level guy look a lot better. And I think that's what we saw from Drake May. Just when you're dropping it in the bucket like that, all the receiver has to do is track and actually secure. They don't have to high point it, they don't have to dive for it, they don't have to go. It's a real difference maker. It really is. So I think that we talked about this as well. That there's some pieces in this wide receiver room. There's just not like the
It's a
top level. There's
couple.
there's not a number one. There's no number one, and they're all decent twos and maybe even a three in there. So I mean, the Patriots go out and get themselves a true number one man, and you got to watch out for this offense. I think.
Hopefully, because I mean, outside of Kayshawn Booty, who had a great day, 5 catches, 95 yards. People to do anything were Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry, just the other two tight ends. And I do like running the two tight end tandem on offense. I think it is effective. It reminds me of back in the old days whenever we had Gronkowski and Hernandez. And but that offense worked for a reason. And I think when Gerard Mayo runs his offense, he tries to think back on how successful that was. Now, obviously, Tom Brady had more number ones back then. Obviously, he had like Julian Edelman, Chris Hogan, Danny
Debatable.
Amendola. He had more better options than what we have right now
All right, that's fair.
at
I
receiver.
think Tom
Obviously,
Brady
they're not
made
not true
made
number
some
ones,
number
but
two.
like
Yeah, okay, yeah.
yeah, because I
But I
don't
see
think the
what you're
Patriots ever
saying.
had. They never really had true number one receivers like that outside of Randy Moss. Because if you look back, you're like, well, who's the number one receiver? You're like, well, Gronk's a tight end. Edelman's right there, but he's not really a number one receiver.
Wes
We
Welker.
like Wes Welker. He's a great number two. Wasn't really the number one. So it's like we didn't we like the Patriot ways never had like a main receiver. It's always been spread the ball around. Whoever's open gets the ball. Doesn't matter who you are, as long as you follow the Patriot way, you will get the ball. You just gotta wait your turn. And this is kind of like that same way because the receptions, everyone's pretty much in the same boat, except for maybe like Jalen Polk, but he's not really even seeing the field at this point. Which whatever, if he gets cut, I get it. He's not really doing a damn thing. But the thing, I think that's the thing with Gerard Mayo is that he's trying to go back in time a little bit, test that offense out, see how it works with today's offense, and then when we go get our number one, try to implement him into that same offense. Whether we get T Higgins, Travis Hunter, or Titi Ora, depending on where our draft position lies.
Hopefully,
I do
number
think
one.
that, yeah, hopefully, just stays number three is because the first two are going to be quarterbacks for sure with the Giants and the Raiders.
Yeah, but that's one of those things where I'd like to see you guys get number one because that's a bargaining chip. You can probably pick up maybe not an
Oh, we
extra
could definitely trade that
first,
away.
depending on who's coming up, but you can definitely get, jump back to that third slot, fourth slot even, and still get your guy, pick up quite a bit of draft compensation in the process.
I think I think if we draft back to or trade back our draft pick, we don't have to pay them as much. Like they're a first rounder, but like I think the pick matters with how much they get paid too, right?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I will add it to my note list for when we get into draft talk. That's good to know. I need to know that.
I just know
Um,
Caleb Williams got like a big contract fully guaranteed. It was like 36 million, something like that for
yeah,
his like 4 years.
here, real quick, let me
But
see. I'll
but
look it up.
yeah, I'm I am happy that our loss was a we were dominant uh on both sides of the ball. It's just the Bills are a playoff team. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. So putting them down to 24 and giving Josh Allen not even 200 yards, not letting him run us down all over the field. In my opinion, that's a win in my book. Even if the stats don't show it, that is a win for us and something to look forward to for like the next 2 weeks to finish the season out.
I fully agree. That's a really good team to look because you lose again, but that's a confidence booster for your guys. And real quick, it looks like that seems to be the case. Caleb Williams' deal is 4 years, 39 million. Jaden Daniels, who was taken second right after him, his deal is 4 years for 37.746. So
Okay.
yeah, a little bit less. So yeah, I would imagine that it does probably continue to scale down and down.
And his
Um,
isn't fully guaranteed, right?
it says it includes a 24 million signing bonus, 37.7 guaranteed. So I do believe the 4 year 37 is guaranteed. But anywho, I fully agree with you that that is a big dub. The biggest dub you can take from an L, especially when you're in it. Because like I said, I know people are fake fan or you're this that. It's like, look, I'm realistic. Season ended how long ago? Talking about being a Patriots fan, winning a couple of meaningless games isn't. Yeah, you can argue it's a confidence booster, and you'd rather not have a losing culture. But I mean, the theory is when you have your quarterback like that, you just need to lose this season because
Yep.
the future's bright. So
And then I saw NFL Twitter was gassing Josh Allen up too much. It's 3rd and 16, talking about
arm
Josh
punt.
Allen with an amazing arm punt. Like it's 3rd and 16.
That
You're
was
gonna tell me that's an
crazy
arm
because
punt?
look, if they could have spun it off as a joke, because I read the full caption is something along the lines of Josh Allen with the arm punt pinning them at the 1. So I'm like, all right, like that is a thing, if it's you essentially would have punted anyways, end of a half, end of a quarter, throw it up, whatever. It's happened before. So I'm thinking that I think I'm going to watch it and it's going to get tipped up, batted up, caught, whatever, down at the 1. But he picked it off in the end zone and tried to run it out and got
Uh,
tackled at the 1. Like,
yeah.
that was just, so I don't even think you could spit it off as a joke. Like, that was bad. That was a bad tweet. I'm
And I
sorry.
see everyone's
That was
on
a
Twitter
big
is like calling him out,
glaze.
like,
Yeah.
look at the glaze. This is the Patrick Mahomes level glaze that Josh Allen's getting right now. And it is like I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it a little bit because he's having a great year, but like let's
He's
go
my
let's go back down to
MVP.
earth. Let's go back down to earth a little bit and understand like he threw an interception, trying to go
Nah,
for like it all, and he was very short on that throw.
that was wild. That was just an absolute terrible throw. And again, like if it had gotten caught and tackled at the one, sure, but he caught it like 5 yards back of the end zone, trying to run it out. Like, come on, bro. That was crazy.
But
But I
yeah,
do
that's
go ahead.
I was gonna say that's pretty much how my game went. I did see a little bit of your game though. I saw a lot of the highlights and the lowlights from both sides. And if you wanted to talk about it right now, the floor is yours.
Man, Commanders fans don't want me to talk about this. I already got called a fake fan today. No, somebody got upset with me on Twitter because they posted a Marshawn Lattimore edit, like from the game. And like, I didn't even say anything bad. I was just like, hey, this is like the last edit I would have posted today because he had a pretty bad game. And I even said, unfortunately, look, I'll find, hold on, real quick. I will find the exact tweet for you guys. I thought it was pretty funny.
I
Like,
think I seen it on Twitter earlier. It's like
yeah,
a reply.
yeah, this guy got very upset at me. I'm not going to say his name, but I do want to find my exact tweet real quick. Just so. Yes. Okay. So this is my exact tweet. I said, this is like the last edit I would have rolled with. LOL. Because it was. I was being like, it wasn't like bad. I was trying to be lighthearted. Little joke about it. But I did say, I was like, Lattimore got dog walked all game long. 3 DPIs that got hurt. Possibly the worst day I've ever seen for a DB, unfortunately. And I was being dead serious because that was, I have no beef with Marshawn Lattimore, especially with him being on my team now. I would have loved the guy. I was very disappointed with his day, and whoever I was responding to was kind of upset about my. He called me a fake fan. I think he called me a burner. He said I don't know ball, and I think he said that I was a burner account. I basically got called a bot. It is, it is what it is. It is what it is. But nah, I get it. So like I said, I don't know if Commanders fans are ready for this. It's like nah. Okay. So I've said it a lot throughout these first 3 episodes, and I've talked about it on social media because we've missed a couple of weeks here and there. So I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm going to reiterate it again. It's the fact that I said it, I think 2 weeks ago, we're making the playoffs, and I was pretty confident even last week, just because I don't think I get upset on Twitter and I'm like, yeah, we suck. But we're not like a bad team because we've beaten the bad teams and we've actually dog walked some of the bad teams. So like we're a good team. We're an up and coming team. But just the way that we had a light schedule, we really did, especially the beginning of the season. That's why we went 5-1. It's the fact that we're not actually really ready for the playoffs. So what I mean by that is you can see when we play the Eagles, when we play the Ravens, the Steelers, we saw the outcomes of those games. And I think out of all of them, we looked the best against the Ravens. That was the only game against a good team this year that I wasn't pissed during, even though we lost. I was never happy with the loss. But I was like, you know what? We didn't actually completely we had a slow start against a very good defense, and then Jaden had done this earlier in the season where it's a little bit of a slow start. Maybe the defense is being more aggressive, throwing some different things at him, but you could see it's almost like a specific drive that the light bulb would kick on for him, and the offense would start maybe not rolling to the tune of 40 points, but they would start moving the ball, scoring some points, and things would start to go. And that's what happened in the Ravens game. It took them maybe the whole first quarter. I'd have to go back and rewatch it to see the exact light bulb moment. But eventually he got it together, and I think we put together a good game that we lost against a very good team. But outside of that game, a lot of the good teams that we've played, the serious playoff teams we've played, we lost or lost badly in and looked badly while we did it. So I've been screaming from the rooftops that all I want is to look good against a bad team. I want to win. I want to win this game, of course, but at least I want to look good
You mean
for.
look good against a good team?
Yes, look good against a good team. If I said that backwards, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But not just for the majority, from quarter 1 to quarter 4. That's what I wanted. And we played atrociously for 3 quarters. Atrociously. And people are having all types of debates about it on social media. And I hate to say it, but I'm not going to disagree with Eagles fans this week. I'm just not, because Kenny Pickett in there is a very different ball game. And it doesn't matter who you're playing. Typically, you can't turn the ball over 5 times and win a football game. I don't remember the exact tweet, and I'm not going to try to find it now, in the middle of the show. I knew where my tweet was just now, but I'd have to find this one. But somebody put the stat out there. Very, very few teams have actually ever done it. I think I could be wrong, but it was maybe 4 have ever turned the ball over 5 times and won the game. That's it. It's not. That's like a Hail Mary type of situation, but even crazier odds. So everyone's like, "Oh, Jalen Hurts doesn't play defense," and it's like you're right. And Jaden Daniels cooked, but he did throw 2 interceptions. Both of them were on him because we have plays where, especially like the Michael Penix interception from this weekend, threw the ball, catches the ball, turns around, ball flies out of his hands, intercepted. That counts as it. So we have those plays. No, Jaden Daniels threw a bad ball, and then the second ball, in my humble opinion, was the worst football he's ever thrown in his life. And the second interception should have been ball game. He threw it with 230, 235 left in the
Is that the one
game.
with Luke McCaffrey he was trying to
Yes.
aim for? He
Funny
threw that way
enough,
too high.
both of them were to Luke McCaffrey. Very weird
Mm-hmm.
coincidence in that game. Not blaming Luke. It was just a weird coincidence. But anywho, yeah, that should have by all means been a game ender. And I don't care what anyone says. If Jalen Hurts was still in the game, that would have been a game ender. It's just you look at how the Eagles have played, and they've been dominating on the ground for the most part. But a lot of it is they eat a lot of clock. And Jalen Hurts is a big part of that. So when, Commanders fans were right to say, yeah, Jalen Hurts doesn't play defense, and Jaden Daniels cooked that defense. He made some mistakes, but he threw some special footballs, and he had some crazy runs as well. But he very likely would have not had those chances if Jalen Hurts never gets hurt. That's a game of what if. I mean, Jalen Hurts could have came out and thrown 4 interceptions in the second half. I mean, anything could have happened. So it's just so unfortunate that Jalen Hurts got hurt for several reasons. One, I never want to see an injury. I want to see every team. I wish we could madden this thing and turn injuries off, because that's just, teams are obviously better and more fun to watch when they're healthy, right? Especially when you're talking about QB1. But also, it's just, as soon as it happened, I'm like, I honestly didn't think we were playing so poorly. I'm like, I don't think we can win this game. I really don't. I'm not saying it's impossible, but without them turning it around out of the half, almost immediately, it's not looking good. But as soon as Hurts goes down, I'm like, that's the excuse if they do win. And I'm just like, and it's valid. What team can lose QB1 and still potentially be themselves? Almost nobody. So it was everything that I've been shouting from the rooftops since probably even during our win streak. I've said this before as well. I didn't want to be the Debbie Downer while we're winning footballs, but I'm like, we're not playing the best teams. And honestly, guys, we haven't looked that great in some of these games. Some of them have been blowouts. We had the really good game against, the Browns, and then the really exciting game against the Bengals. But some of these games aren't all that great looking. I said, I'm a little worried when we get to this back half of the season and we start playing some of these, heavy hitters and divisional guys. And that's kind of what happened. We hit a wall. So I wanted to see a good team come and play a good game. And I think overall, it was a bad team for 3 quarters. They played very well on both sides of the ball in the fourth quarter. And that's what, if I had seen that for 4 quarters of football, Jalen Hurts or no Jalen Hurts, I would feel so much better. Because after watching that game, of course, if the win felt great, 10-5, this is the first time the Commanders have been 10-5.
15 years?
Yeah, it's since 1991. So,
yeah, long time.
If they can win against Atlanta or Dallas, doesn't matter. But as soon as next week, if they can beat Atlanta and win 11 games, it'll be the first time that they've won more than 10 games in 30 years. Insane.
It's a lot.
It's just the fact that I don't think that they are truly playoff ready. And as awesome as the season is, and as much as I want to soak it in, I'm just like, how about the draft pick? It's going down and down and down. Um, so that's ultimately what I wanted to see. The team is actually, I think, what, 3-1 in their last four. So they're winning games. It's just I really wanted to see, especially out of the bye week, and we didn't get that. I really wanted to see the team from the first 6 weeks of the season, because then I would have said, okay, teams are allowed to have funks. Teams are allowed to have, not everything's perfect for 18 weeks. But they really haven't turned it. At this point, they have more tape, in my opinion, that's not great compared to that first 6 weeks of tape. And a big part of it, which is why I think part of me is saying this is just who they are, and you know that. But the other part of me is like, a lot of the issues that they're having are issues that are actually fixable. Meaning, that first 6 weeks of football when they're 5-1, sure, the offense was clicking. They were like the number one or number two scoring offense in the league after like 4 or 5 weeks. But they weren't getting flags. There were no false starts. There were no holds, DPIs, encroachments. It was shocking how disciplined they were playing. And since the Panthers game, Jaden hurt them ribs. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened when Jaden hurt his ribs, but it's like everything went kaputski. Because since then, we flagged. Let me pull the game up real quick, because it was actually absurd when you're
There's like
talking about. Go ahead.
16 penalties altogether in that game, and a lot of them are pass interference calls.
The Commanders were flagged 7 times. I don't know if they had 7 flags in like 4 or 5 weeks, the first 5 weeks of the season. So, and that's been a big issue for them, especially over the past month or so. And it's like, if you clean that up, you should be able to get back to that first 6 weeks of how you were playing. Because the Philly defense, they did lose CJ to that ejection, which in my humble opinion was bogus. But they were still doing pretty well with CJ on the field. They exploded in the fourth with no CJ. But they played very well against one of the best defenses in the league. So there's a lot of good to come from this game. But there's also that same stink that has been kind of holding them back for the past 4 or 5 weeks. And I just had to get it off my chest, because I just, like I said, as happy as I am for where we're at, we're going to the playoffs. We'd have to blow it catastrophically. And it's not even that we could lose our last 2 games. If Atlanta loses, we still make the playoffs. So we have to lose twice. Atlanta has to win twice, and we play each other next week. So something's got to give, right? So I'm almost confident to say this team's going to the playoffs. And are we ready for that?
Not with those Brian Robinson fumbles.
I'm going to go with, so I said live that he needed to be benched, and he wasn't. I'm not a head coach for a reason. But I love Brian Robinson. I am very much so a team of just like you said, sometimes you have a bad game. That's uncharacteristic. Just fumbling in general, that's not really a B-Rob issue. And 2 in a row, definitely just like an outlier on the stat sheet. He goes into next week and fumbles, maybe we have something to talk about. Because at that point, maybe you broke your mental a little bit. But as of right now, I'm going with he just had one of them bad days. And that was an outlier. So hopefully he'll put that past him. What I'm more concerned with, Marshawn Lattimore. I talked about it on Twitter a lot this morning, and I'm going to talk about it again here. I was super disappointed. I have never been more disappointed in a player, I think, in my life. And in a way, that's a compliment because I was under the impression that Marshawn Lattimore was one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Sure, no first team All Pros, but I sat here for several years and watched Trent Williams be the best left tackle in football and only get one second team All Pro nod out of it. And I said, this is BS. So just because you don't have that All Pro does not, in my humble opinion, mean that you weren't the best at your position at least once, twice, whatever. So he may not be number one, but he's up there. I thought he was. So whatever. So I just had really high expectations from Lattimore. I know no one's perfect. And AJ Brown actually gave him a lot of praise, but I think AJ Brown is a professional. So I don't think, unless they got into it like on some dirty stuff, like actually got into it, I think AJ Brown probably would have, taken the high road regardless. He said something along the lines of, it was a good battle. I won some, he won some. It was a good day. They got the win. Like, I respect him, blah, 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 blah. Lattimore was brought here. I know for a fact. Like, I don't know for a fact. I shouldn't say that because I haven't talked to Adam Peters myself. But I have a very strong intuition that he was brought here to deal with the AJ Browns of the world. Those top 5, top 10 wide receivers.
Yeah.
And in my humble opinion, maybe dog walked was a little harsh this morning, to be fair to the internet guy that I upset this morning. I only had like 2 sips of coffee when I threw that response at you. As I'm getting older, I need to have my coffee first, okay? I need to wake up. But he had a very bad day. He got beat all day long to the tune of 97 yards and a touchdown because he was shadowing AJ Brown. That was his job. 8 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. AJ Brown can be nice if he wants by saying he won some, I won some, but I don't see how many Lattimore could have won giving up 8 catches for 97 yards and a tutty. I don't.
Yeah, look, when I was watching some of the highlights, it definitely looked like, obviously with Kenny Pickett in there, the offense isn't really going to be rolling that much outside of Saquon Barkley, who did have a monster game with the 150 yards. But that's to be expected from him. He's going to have a over 100-yard game. It's just a matter of, at that point, with Jalen out, okay, with him out, how are we going to hold back these wide receivers? And man, all those penalties really went both ways. It seemed like maybe a little more on the Eagles side, but it definitely did not make for like a fun game because it seemed like one drive you guys got a couple PIs that got them to the red zone. Then the next drive they got PIs that got them got you guys into the red zone, and obviously like just bad calls all around without. And I know it might not look like it, but I'm looking at the stats right now, and I'm seeing the third down efficiency for the Eagles. They were 3 for 16. Like, I know they held the ball for 36 minutes, but you're not going to win a lot of games only converting 3 third downs either.
Well, I mean,
Five turnovers or not too on top of
yeah.
that.
That was kind of the icing on the cake for me. That's when I think I officially lost my cool on Twitter, which me losing my cool is not like anything crazy. It's just me saying like, hey, we suck. Like, what is this, But
Yeah.
it was when Kenny Pickett came in, and if I can find the play in time, I'll see if I can clip it in here. Kenny Pickett comes in, and he throws the most lame duck underthrown ball into double coverage to AJ Brown. Double cover with Lattimore right there. When the ball's in the air, I said out loud to the wife, I said, that's an interception. I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know who's it going to. That's an interception. And then as it's coming into picture, I said, in my head, I said, Lattimore's going to get this thing. He never turned his head. The whole time. The whole play. He's just running after AJ Brown, just staring him right in the back of the helmet. Even as AJ Brown's clearly making a move like he's going to catch a ball, at no point during the play, and I guess if I find it, I'll clip it in, but if y'all don't believe me, find the play. No point in time does Marshawn Lattimore turn his head. You're supposed to be one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. That was just the easiest. Like, he's going to see that on film and be so pissed off because any DB would be, because that was a gift wrapped interception if you just looked for the ball. And what happened was AJ Brown caught the ball. It was like a 30-something yard pass that should have been picked off and would have been a huge difference maker. So that was the icing on the cake for me, man. I said it this morning on Twitter. I said, what we got from Marshawn Lattimore is, and this is not an exaggeration, tell me I'm lying. What we got from him is not anything better than we have gotten from any quarterback we've thrown out there in the past 2 to 3 seasons. If you would have told me Emmanuel Forbes, and I'm not trying to shit on the kid, because I actually still believe, I don't want to say I believed in him, but I never gave up on him. I'm not going to give up on a young player that young. He's not even here anymore. I think he's in Buffalo. I think he went to Buffalo. But anyways, if you had told me Emmanuel Forbes was guarding AJ Brown, and I said, I believe it. But it was Marshawn Lattimore. That's why I've just been so harsh on him. Like, it's no disrespect to him. I don't dislike him as a human being, as an individual. I don't dislike him as a football player. I just think that was one of the worst games I've seen since probably Forbes' rookie season when he had to guard AJ Brown. I think AJ went off like 100 plus, 2-3 tutties off.
Yeah.
This is right there behind it though. That's bad. And Devontae Smith, who I think is a great receiver, one of the borderline elite, 6 catches, 51 yards. It was a very quiet 6 for 51. I'm going to put it that way. And that's no disrespect to him. It's just A.J. Brown was the guy absolutely decimating us. And Marshawn Lattimore followed him all game.
It doesn't help. Kenny Pickett was not like finding him outside of like 5 to 10 yards.
It would have been worse if Jalen Hurts was in the game. That's all I'm going to say.
Well,
Not
yeah.
to beat that dead horse in the game, but Kenny Pickett was awful. And Jalen Hurts isn't the greatest passer in the world, but he's good, okay? And we saw him explode just last week through the air. With how badly, just real quick, with how badly AJ Brown was beating Lattimore, this would have been a substantially bigger day. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, in my eyes, from the outside looking in, this is kind of like what your identity's kind of been all year is stealing wins. You stole wins from Chicago.
New Orleans, kind of.
New Orleans is the other one I'm thinking of. And now you stole a win from the Eagles, and this one is a big one because it not only does it mess up with the Eagles' playoff seeding, but it makes yours look even better. And that's sometimes I feel like you just gotta like take it for what it is. Like obviously, like you want the game to go one way, and it halfway did. You got the win, you got what you needed, and you're coming out better because not anyone had you guys winning this game at first. It was probably like minus 5.5 point differential, I think, was what the odd bookies had. But now you guys are still the 7th seed, but you're not really like a bad 7th seed. Like you're gonna make the playoffs either way. I think that the NFC playoff set are already set. It's just a matter of like the Falcons winning or losing or not. And I do feel like that you guys should be come out of this matchup with more positivity because sometimes it's good to just steal one away, especially from a division rival, especially when they're down and out. Granted, you don't want injuries to happen, but that's the best time you want to get the win is whenever they don't have their star players. Whether it been Saquon got out with like if he had got out with like a hammy or AJ Brown had like like a tweak in his ankle or something like that. You don't want that to happen, but those are just times where you have to take advantage. And I think the Commanders sloppily took advantage, but they did. They took advantage. And Jaden Daniels came out in the fourth quarter, lit it up for 22 points, got the win. And I do think your secondary did step up in that fourth
The whole
by making
defense
sure
did.
that they
I'll
didn't
give them that.
by making sure that they don't get past the 30-yard line, pretty much.
I'm trying to find it real quick. What I will
But
say
would
is
you agree though?
I kind of yes and no. I fully agree with the thievery, and I actually wanted to add to that. I would argue that we also stole week 2 at home opener versus the Giants. We won 21 to 18. We kicked off field goals,
Yep.
so that was funny. I'm trying to find it. I know I've retweeted so much stuff today, especially just Jaden Daniels praise. He might be the number one quarterback this season in the NFL in the crunch time stats.
Probably in crunch time, yeah. I think the number one QB is still like Josh Allen, but I think you're right about the crunch time because I don't think anyone else has been in those situations outside of
I think that was
maybe
his
Joe Burrow.
third game winning drive. I
Yep.
think. I'm not finding it immediately, so I don't want to sit here and scroll for too long. Um, so I do absolutely agree with the thievery part. And, it is one of those things, where it could be a feel good game to win a game like that. And because they did collectively come together offensively and defensively in that fourth quarter, it was a 22-point fourth quarter, by the way. Um, yes, hopefully they can take that momentum and start to roll with, but who was it? Patrick Mahomes. Somebody just said momentum's like fake, not real, and like I absolutely know what they mean, and I agree with them in that sense. But it can be a mental thing. So hopefully they can take that, let's say, positive um, feelings instead of momentum, positive feelings, and build on that and say, you know what, we can do what we did against the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Browns, the Panthers. We can do all of that. We just had a 22-point fourth quarter comeback win against arguably one of the best defenses and arguably just one of the best teams in general, quarterback or not, in the league. And obviously, the Hurts is a big deal. But specifically focusing on Jaden Daniels, he still had to, yes, maybe the opportunities wouldn't have been as plentiful if Jalen Hurts was still there. But since those opportunities were there against that defense, he had to go and make those plays. And he made a lot of very special plays. So again, we know what Jaden Daniels can be. It's about, can they clean up the penalties? Can they lock in the secondary? That's really what it is for this team. The running game can be a little wishy-washy, but Jaden Daniels consistently tends to do what he needs to do on the ground and even through the air. It's, like I said, simply not getting dominated in the pass game. And they did get shredded in the first half of the run game, but they absolutely shut Barkley down in the second half. So it really, mainly to me, is that secondary and the penalties. If they can figure that out, but again, it's sounding like Lattimore might be done. We'll see. As I think they said maybe Thursday or Friday for an update.
If he's done
Um,
for the season.
we don't. That's what I'm saying. They haven't given an update yet. That's what I said. I
Mm.
think they're saying Thursday or Friday we'll get that update. We're not practice. I think we have a light practice tomorrow. No practice on Wednesday, so that's why it's Thursday or Friday. We should get that update. My guess is he's done for the season. They said it was a hammy. When have we ever had a positive outcome from a hamstring injury? That's usually 4 to 6 weeks.
Best case scenario, they could just keep him out till the playoffs start.
They could. That's what I said. He could come back for the offs. Um, but yeah, that's ultimately how I feel about the team in general right now and Lattimore. But before we completely walk away from this, because what I love to pride myself is just being the unbiased guy, right? I don't, I'm not just out here standing it up. So I do want to talk about the officiating for a little bit in that game. I've we always say this, it's the worst you've ever seen until the next time. And now it's the worst you've ever seen. So, unfortunately, myself included, and pretty much the entire world population, we use, oh, this is the worst blah, blah, blah I've ever seen. Too often for it to hold weight. This actually genuinely is top 3, and I don't think it's 3, worst officiated games I've ever seen. Both sides of the ball. I, people, it's a tale as old as the dawn of time. The officials are bad. The officials are bad. I genuinely believe we have an issue right now. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the solution is. I can think of a couple, but we've seen a lot of bad officiating mistakes, and guys are human. But I think we talked about it last week where I said there was like week 2 or in the game where New York overturned a call in our game and it was a big call. And I'm like, well, why can't they do that more consistently or not at all? So it's weird. It starts with the Jalen Hurts scenario. I saw, I didn't verify this, that he cleared concussion protocols. I don't know the validity of that. I get why the NFL is still very concerned with that. He wouldn't be the first person that technically cleared concussion protocols but wasn't allowed to return. Um, but we need a clear message with that. Maybe just if a guy gets a concussion verified, even if they pass, that's it for the game. There really shouldn't be a maybe there shouldn't be anything for him to pass because if you can pass something, that implies you can play, in my opinion. So
Right.
they need some clarity there because otherwise, people are going to go, well, that's suspicious.
I
Well, if
guess
he,
it's like
they did it so the Eagles would lose. They want the Lions to win. They want the Commanders. You need to get rid of that doubt, in my humble opinion.
sometimes you can show that you're sick but not have a temperature.
And no, that's
Like
very
what
true.
those type of things.
But that's why I said maybe there's nothing to pass. Because again, passing the protocol implies you can play. So maybe it's just, hey, you have a concussion, buddy, you're done for the day. We're going to test you to see what you say and respond, and then we're going to get back with I don't know I'm not a doctor. Every 30 minutes, every hour, 2, I don't know. We'll come back and we'll test you and we'll test you. But yeah, they need to be a little more clear when those issues arise. Rather that's letting the commentary know, hey, here's the update with Jalen. Go ahead and let the people watching at home. Or having the official letting the people in the arena and on TV simultaneously through a announcement, hey, this is the update with the quarterback, concussion protocol. His day is done. Just so everyone's clear. Okay, he's done. There's no there's no potentials. Well, they didn't. This guy got to come back, and I think they need to do something there. Um, the calls in general, it's so hard. There were a lot of bad calls, but there's going to be bad calls every game. But there were a lot of just egregiously bad calls from some roughing the passers to DPI to unnecessary roughness. Just they seemed very inconsistent. One moment it was ticky tack. The next moment, like it was like, well, that was a clear penalty and nothing happened. The most egregious of it, in my humble opinion, was the ejection of CJ. I understand that 2 unnecessaries get you the boot, but I don't understand what happened with the first one. So, for anybody that's not unfamiliar, there was a situation earlier in the game where something was said clearly by CJ Gardner, or, what is his full name? Do you know his full name? I actually
Like
don't.
his first name?
Yeah, I just know what is it? People call him what, CJ DJ or whatever. But anywho,
Uh,
while you look that up,
yeah.
he obviously said something that obviously pissed De'Ami Brown off, and Brown mushed him in the face so hard, like his face mask, he mushed him. People are saying he punched him. He didn't punch him. He mushed. You guys know what a mush is. You know what a punch is. You know what a slap is. But yeah, he mushed him so hard his helmet fell off. Like, not just like gently fell off, like it went woo right in front of an official, and we weren't flagged for it. And I'm like, here's where the unbiased part comes in. I know for a fact if the roles were flipped and Devontae Smith pushed Marshawn Lattimore's helmet off or mushed his face so hard his helmet came off, I'd want him flagged for it. So I'm just like, apart from like CJ saying, hey, I'm gonna murder your entire family, like after the game, bro, I see them in the stands, they're dead. Like, what could he have possibly said that warranted the response and no flags for the Commanders? It's not that I wanted to see my team flag. That worked in our favor, so awesome. I want to see consistency across the league because, like I said, if the roles were flipped, I would want Devontae Smith or AJ Brown flagged for that because that's a flag. You can't do that. So
Right.
it's like, what are we doing in the officiating game? It's very inconsistent across the league, and my biggest beef is that the NFL will handle those things. It affects the outcomes of games, so that's not going to make any fans feel better. But I'll bet you $100, and y'all already know I'm not a betting man. I'll bet you $100 De'Ami Brown's getting a fine for that. Why is he getting a fine if he did nothing wrong? He wasn't flagged for it
It's kind of
because
like
he
when
should have been, right?
they find players. They find Saquon a good chunk of money for leading it with his head when he had the ball running.
Yeah,
Like they do those like post game fines and stuff like that after they review tape, and
they're
I
just
think
stealing money.
it's very stupid. I think that's just them trying to penny pinch.
Some guys should be
His name's
fined.
Chauncey, by the way. I knew his name was Chauncey.
Chauncey,
I looked
okay,
it up. I looked it up to make sure, but yeah, they call him CJ or
okay,
Chauncey.
got you. So I think that referees need to be fined. Maybe you can't fine them because they're not making tens or hundred millions of dollars, but refs need to be punished for just who can go to work every day and botch it and nothing happens. You're not fired. You're not put on leave. Your boss doesn't say, hey, look, we're going to need to re-put you through training or something because something ain't right. Who's just going to keep paying you a paycheck? And here's the thing. I would never say sports are rigged. I think humbly, there are some sports you can rig. If it's a one-on-one sport, you can rig it. You can rig a tennis
Basketball.
match. I don't think you
NBA
can.
had a
I don't think
rigging
you.
issue.
I don't think you can actually rig a basketball game. Hear me out. Hear me
Well,
out.
there
Oh,
was
I
a case
know.
where
The Kings, right? It's like
that's
2003, 99. It was like
yeah.
99, 2000, something like that. Hear me out. Yes, that happened. But here's the thing. You didn't really rig the game. I guess it depends on what your definition of rigging is. Maybe I should look this up real quick because maybe I'm just wrong. But let me hear
Because I
me out.
remember, I remember there's a referee in the 2000s who got in
All
big
right.
trouble for
So
that.
technically it's rigged. Okay, for me, rigged, I guess I was because the definition of rig is just to manipulate or control by deceptive or dishonest means. I meant more so whenever I hear rig, I think like scripted outcome. That's in my humble opinion, you can't do that in a multi-man sport game because even in basketball, 5-on-5 with a bench, you have to convince every player and every coach to go with the results you want. Not only
Yeah,
do you
no,
have to
it's
do
not like
that,
that.
not only do you have to do that, but you have to do that with several teams over how many years have these leagues been around and no one's like actually blown the whistle. We've had people act like they have, like, oh yeah, it's actually scripted, but really, where's your script? Show us. You got the script somewhere, you know. So I guess I think of rigged as scripted, but you're right. You can rig a game, especially with officials. But again, even if you wanted the Commanders to win that game, and again they did, Jaden Daniels still has to throw the right passes, and he threw that pick with 2 minutes and something seconds to go. There was no flag on that play. It should have been the end of the game. The refs didn't. I think what was. I don't want to botch this. It was something like Eagles got the ball back after the interception, a little over 2 minutes to go. I don't remember how many timeouts we had, but it wasn't enough to let them get a first down type of deal or let them get more than one type of deal.
I
So
think
I
it's
want
like
to say
two first downs or
I want
two
to say the very
touchdowns.
first play they ran they ran to the right side. It was Saquon out of the gun, and they actually lost 3 yards. I mean, how'd the refs affect that, right? So then the very next play, they go to A.J. Brown, and they pick up 8 yards. How'd the refs affect that? Third down. I think that's the play they hit Saquon Barkley wide open, or maybe it was the Devontae Smith. It was one of those two. They hit him wide open, and they dropped the ball. How'd the refs affect that? Now they have to punt. Now Jaden Daniels gets the ball back and goes and leads a game-winning drive. So yeah, sure, you can try to rig the game, but the refs didn't affect that drive of the Eagles whatsoever. Nothing illegal happened. Now, you can argue that the false start on the Commanders' game-winning touchdown should have been called, and I would necessarily agree with you, but I talked about it on Twitter that it's an issue that's happening across the league, and I'm not understanding it. Have you seen it? I've seen it all across the league. Tackles, in my humble opinion, are allowed to false start now. They go early.
It's been
They go
it's meant
before
to
the snap.
when you watch the Chiefs games, it's a right tackle that the
And it
damn near
was
like
our
90% of the
it
time.
was ours. It was Andrew Wiley, and I think it's actually the left tackle on Philly that does it a lot. It's not just those guys. It's like almost every team. I genuinely think tackles are allowed to false start now. You can't do it egregiously, but they are so many of them are going before the snap and it's not being called. And we just did it too. So I'm like, yeah, that was a false start in my book, but I've seen so many teams doing it and getting away with it that that's the one call that I'm like, I'm not going to be mad at it because everyone's doing it. I would have been
Right.
actually, if they would have called it, I would have been like, well, everyone's doing it. Why are you going to call it on us? Um, but that's another one. That's something that they need that's part of the officiating issue. Rather, if that's the case, if the league's like, hey, tackles get a little more, which makes no sense whatsoever. The defense is already at a severe disadvantage. Then you need to communicate that to the fans. Because otherwise, we're sitting here like, well, why are some guys just false starting all over the place? And then you're going to have Philly fans go, well, CJ got ejected falsely. Uh, this call was missed. This was a bad call. They let them false start on so it's rigged. And like, how do
Mhm.
you necessarily, if you watch the game from start to finish, how do you argue against it? But how you do it is there were also several bad calls that went on the Commanders. All three of Marshawn Lattimore's DPIs were art. The third one was actual DPI. The first two were up in the air. So there were a lot of bad calls both ways. And I needed to get that off my chest too. I really did because I think overall the referees are just they are influencing the game too much. And rigged is possibility, especially with gambling so prominent and the league straight up endorsing it and being partnered with some of these gambling books. Um, so them having little personal bets going or bets that their family members placed, unfortunately, that is a very real possibility. But you've heard a guy like Anthony Edwards, yeah, we're talking NFL, but he just did it, like recently just did it, where he's like, these dudes, they get emotional and they call shit. I don't normally curse, but that's what he said. They called stuff because they're mad, like essentially. Like what he said was is he said something to him and he said the ref told him if you had said y'all are making bad calls but you said I'm making bad calls, so he teched him up. Not how that works. Now there's two sides to every story. There's his side, there's the other side, and there's the truth. So did Ant Edwards tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Maybe not. But if he did, and I wouldn't be shocked, that's not how that works. You can't call a tech for a guy because he hurt your feelings. If he didn't break the rules, you're a professional official in the league. You need to be able to handle that
Tim Duncan got ejected for laughing at a ref,
because the um
infamously.
overall it just you get into those sticky situations where it's like you're affecting the actual outcome of the game. And rather it's because you got a little something something going on the side, or rather it's because you got emotional. That just can't happen. And the reason why it does happen and is happening is because the league, rather they're and maybe they're in on it. Maybe that's why nothing's happening. There are no repercussions. There's no consequence. When have you ever heard about a referee getting fired?
Um,
You don't. They retire
outside of
or they quit. I don't even think they quit. I think they just retire.
yeah, they resign and
Yeah.
get benefits and whatnot. I'm not saying like a cop if you killed somebody on accident, it's like, oh well, you can resign, still get your pension, yada yada yada.
So it's like without any type of repercussions, whether it's fines, because I don't know how much. I mean, is there an actual how much do NFL refs make? It's probably not actually how it works. Well, apparently the Super Bowl bonus is between 40 and 50,000. So I'm gonna go ahead and guess that they make a decent wage.
I'd say about like 20. I'd say like 20, 30,000 a game.
So, according to CBS News from February of 2024, NFL referees earn an average of 205,000 per season. So, They probably don't make
Right.
200 grand. That's what an average is, but it's safe to say they're making six figures. So I'm going to go ahead and actually take back what I said. These guys can afford to get fined. Yeah, but you can't fine them 50 grand like you fine Barkley or something, but
Yeah.
these guys and men and women can get fined. Or at the bare minimum, here are your options. Fines, suspensions without pay, or mandatory like training, like retraining or something. You keep messing this up, you got to go back to ref school for 2 weeks, buddy. You got to go take some classes. Sorry.
Take like a suspension type deal. I have heard of referees suspended after like so many. I know it's NBA for sure. I don't know about NFL because there's really not a lot of like prominent NFL screw ups like that. You know, it's all like just pretty much a collective team. Um, and I think there are some teams that like I think last year like the with the playoffs and whatever, I think a team was like unable to be considered for a game,
Like,
so then they wouldn't get paid for like they wouldn't be able to referee that game. They wouldn't be able to get paid for that game. That type of deal. Other
yeah,
than like NBA football, whatever.
it's just something, man, because otherwise it's just going to continue. It's not going to get better. They're giving us no path to improvements. And so then, of course, then when are people going to go from there? Well, it's because the NFL's in on it. It's all rigged.
Yeah.
It's the money.
Now, in my opinion, I do think some refs do like they let certain players get away with some stuff. Sure, I do think some might even take money under the table. I wouldn't be put past it, you know, because you just like you said, like these players, these coaches, these teams, they want to win. They want to win just as much as the next guy. So it wouldn't surprise me if they slip a couple, extra $1,000 inside one of their pockets. Like, hey, like just kind of look the other way for some of these calls, like especially with the tackles. If they're going super early before the snap and they're not getting called, I mean, it's not just coincidence that it's happening multiple people.
10 years ago, I would call you crazy, but today, with what I've seen, I honestly, I believe that it's definitely in the realm of possibility. If it's not
I mean, like
definitely
it is,
happening.
and like one of those, it's hard. It's not like a bounty gate or nothing like that. It's just more like, hey, can you just like, here's a couple extra thousand, give us a little leniency, just kind of like, don't be too harsh,
Well,
like kind
it's
of
a
like,
lot easier to track in the NBA, and I wish I knew we were gonna segue into some officiating. I didn't think about it pre-show, but I would have pulled this up because it's fascinating. But a lot of guys do track because obviously you have smaller teams, smaller officiating crews. So a lot of people track like how certain crews officiate teams or players. And what's his name? One of the more popular guys. One of the big ones was him and Chris Paul, where that meme of Chris Paul, the laughing at the ref,
oh,
and then
Scott, is it? I know his
Scott
first name's
Foster.
Scott.
Scott Foster.
Foster, yep.
You look at like the stats in the games, it's like, yeah, these aren't the real numbers, but it's something crazy like, yeah, Chris Paul is 0-17 in any game he's ever had officiated by him, or
He
he's
actually won one last year with
did he
Scott as
actually?
a
That's
referee.
hilarious. But you see guys like you can see a guy have 20 techs, but 11 of them are for one ref. Something's not right there. So it's like we have that data as fans. Y'all have that data as the league. One of two things need to happen here. You need to acknowledge that something's not right and do something with that referee in general, or at the bare minimum, stop assigning him to any game that player or team plays. If there's a clear-cut bias, you can't have that ref or that crew officiating that game. You just can't do it. It's on a very small scale, but I actually don't hate him as like a commentator necessarily, and I don't hate him like on the shows. But if I tune into a Commanders game and Troy Aikman is on the broadcast, I'm already blown for the day because his bias against Cowboys old quarterback. He's the bias against
Yep.
the. We could be the best team in the league, and he will. If somebody trips and falls on an 80-yard, he'll see that guy trip and fell. See, that's the problem. They scored here, but that's the problem. It's just like he hates us that much. So it's like that's just a commentator. All they can do is annoy you. But you have actual officials that actually do, like, they feel that way. Like, oh, I hate this dude. I hate this team. Oh, and I get to ref this game? Bet. And that's what
Right.
Anthony Edwards said, where, some of this is emotional. I don't like this guy. He said something to me once. And that's why I like when players chirp to players, but I don't like when players or coaches chirp to refs. Like, part of me is like, yeah, let him have it. But the other part of me is like, no, because now you're on the blacklist. Now,
Yeah.
anytime we play against this guy, we're getting no calls or extra calls. And he's going to call all of his little buddies like, hey, yo, F Dan Quinn, F the Commanders. So anybody that's cool with that ref is now against you. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just human nature and life. That's what they do, right? You make friends, you group up, you hate
Yeah.
what your friends hate. So it's like, it's a problem. The refs have way too much influence over the game. And it's even more suspicious when we're talking NFL because New York steps in whenever they so choose, like the freaking almighty himself, like, ah. So it's very hard as someone who is going to continue to sit here and say that this stuff isn't rigged, but it's getting harder to say it's getting harder to be like certain because
There's flashes that's showing.
there's just so much sus stuff that when people bring it up, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I still don't believe it, but I can't argue with that.
Yeah. But what you can't argue with though is that your team's probably gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely got a little sidetracked there. Sorry about that. But like I said, I just had so much to get off my chest. So much to get off my chest. But yes, that our final segment for the evening, as we are already at an hour and 6 minutes. Let's talk some playoffs. So, unfortunately, you guys are nowhere to be seen this time around. Uh,
We're dead last, and
well,
I like
actually,
that.
are you dead last?
We
Actually,
are
you
dead
are.
last.
Well, the Raiders are also 3-12. But
Yeah, but our strength of schedule versus theirs makes it dead
yeah, no,
last.
you guys are under them. Yeah, Las Vegas wins tiebreaker over New England based on best win percentage in conference games. So yeah, if nothing
Uh,
changes,
huh?
you guys. Oh, the Giants are 2-13. I missed that.
Yeah, the different conference though, so I'm not too worried about.
Yeah, but I want you guys to get that number one pick. But we're not talking draft. All right, let's talk playoffs. Let's talk playoffs. So we'll talk a little bit about Commanders real quick because we kind of talked plenty about them. Yeah, we're going to be in the playoffs. It would be an epic just implosion along with Atlanta having to run the table these last 2 weeks for us to not do it. As of right now, you know who our opponent is? We got the Eagles.
For
I,
now.
I actually I would like that game. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I hope that sticks. Here's why. I don't think we're ready for the offs. I don't. So if we're not ready, I'm not. I don't want Los Angeles.
So
I I want.
I do want to point out that last year I think the Eagles were the 2 seed, and no wait, it was the Cowboys. I'm tripping.
Yeah, but
And the
we can always count on them to, you know.
I think, but the Eagles played the Buccaneers in the first round and got absolutely smacked.
So that's what I was gonna say. Not that I think that's last year. This is this year. Um, there's no reason when we hit the offs. I'm not afraid of anyone because I just think that, like I said, we're not quite ready to be there. So give me the best opponent. We can't play the number one seed because they get the bye. So give me the number two seed. Reason number two. Well, part of that is I just want the best team possible. Truly show me where I'm at. Number two, it is a divisional team. So as much as I would sit here and say, the Eagles are definitely the better team, anything can go in a divisional game. The Cowboys kind of pooped on us a couple weeks ago, and I would still sit here and say we're better than Dallas right now. We're better than, and they beat us. And it actually really wasn't that close of a game either. So you get into them divisional games. The Giants played us well both times and probably should have won week one. So if we're gonna win a game, I would love to knock the Eagles. You know what that city
That'd be
would
nice.
do? You know what that
That'd
city
be
would
nice.
do? Oh my god. And there's a little rivalry starting here. Dallas is kind of the as much as I want to say I hate Dallas more than anything, I do, I really do. The Dallas Commanders rivalry has kind of been flamed out for quite a few seasons, in due part to our fault. we sucked for so long that there really just kind of really wasn't really a
I
whole
feel
lot of
like
hate there. The Cowboys actually kind of dog walked us. I don't know if Dak Prescott has lost against the Commanders yet. I'm not sure if that's changed yet. I can't remember. Um,
I feel like the Cowboys fan base is kind of torn apart because I mean, Cowboys are out of playoffs, but I mean, Cooper Rush is at least playing decent ball. You know, he's
yeah,
not
I
out
mean,
there just doing nothing.
but that the Eagles and the Commanders, for some reason, we've been having some spicy games recently, past couple seasons, and it almost feels like that's starting to become like an actual like, okay, I genuinely can't stand you and your fan base. I wake up and pray on your downfall every day type of rivalry. You know what I mean? So to get
Yep.
that matchup in the playoffs, I'll take it. I will take it. I'm not going to run from that smoke. As much as I would love to be a fanboy and sit here and say we're going to kick their ass, they'll probably win. But if we
But
win, ooh, buddy.
little icing on the cake there.
Yes, sir.
But looking at this playoff picture, though, it's not the only thing that I feel like is actually could change is the Falcons and the Buccaneers positioning. Obviously, the Falcons lose, Buccaneers win. One of them gets that 4 seed. The other one's most likely not making the playoffs at that point.
Well, if
Um,
I do believe if the Falcons lose, I think they can't make the playoffs. Maybe I read that wrong. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know how that would go into Week 18, but I do know. I don't because I don't know about their division uh, that or tiebreakers or nothing like that. Um, but I'm looking at the AFC. You got Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Texans, Ravens. They're already in. Chargers and Broncos. We talked about this last week, even though when we did our scoring predictions and whatnot, like this would be a divisional game, playoff game,
Hey, we were.
playoff worthy game.
I was close.
You were close. I only got the Broncos score pretty close. I was not. I was surprised the Chargers brought it back in the second half because it was not looking good.
I actually watched it. It was a really good game.
But
I
it's not looking
think
like this. But
I think I would like to see the Broncos come out of that. Um, but I mean they need a little luck because now the Chargers hold the tiebreaker. Uh, Bo
yeah,
Nix, rookie quarterback. I like Justin Herbert. I like John Harbaugh. Um, Jim.
Jim Harbaugh. Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know. I would like to see another rookie quarterback do some cool stuff, especially in the same draft class as Jaden. I know there's some beef between like Jaden and Broncos fans right now, just because a lot of Broncos fans are on team Bo Nix better, or he should be the offensive rookie of the year. But I don't play all that stuff. I like Bo Nix. I'm happy for the Broncos, so I would like to see them come out of that. But I think the Chargers got that on lock. I do. I think they do.
I mean, at this point, it just looks like who's going to get the seventh seed. I don't think the Colts, Dolphins, or Bengals are going to make it. They'd have to win out, and something would have to happen between those two teams for one of them to get knocked out. Um, and then on the NFC side, it's pretty much the same way. Outside of Falcons and Bucks, I don't. The Seahawks aren't making it. Commanders are making it. Packers are pretty much locked in, and the Rams are more than likely winning this division too. So
All
with
right.
how the year's been, I don't, with all the injuries and very, very, very poor play for like the first half of the season, it's really starting to show that it's biting these teams in the ass very hard. Like
Yeah.
the 49ers aren't even, the 49ers are out. The Cardinals, who can't seem to find Trey McBride a touchdown, are out.
The Cardinals are just the definition of mid. I'm sorry. They're just
I like Trey
average.
McBride. Trey McBride's a great tight end,
I like
but the
Kyler
fact that
Murray.
he has like almost 90 receptions and 1,000 yards and no touchdowns is
That is
kind of scary.
insane. That is
That's kind of
insane.
then you need to look back and be like, okay, so why is he not getting touchdowns? Is this a Kyler issue or is this like a team issue? Because he should not. He should be getting at least 5 touchdowns right now.
That's a scheme and a quarterback issue. But not a quarterback issue in terms of Kyler Murray's bad.
He
There's just
can't
no
see the
way.
field.
There's just no way you can't hit your tight end. I mean, Kyler Murray has only thrown for 16 tutties this year.
That's bad.
I mean, his
Like, and
rookie
and
year, he
for
was at
what he gets
20.
paid.
Sophomore year, 26, 24. And then since 22, it's actually been on a dip. He's missed time, though. So
But this year he hasn't missed time,
he has
and
not.
he has Marvin Harrison Jr. Michael Wilson's on that team. Like he has people. It's just he's not utilizing them. I know James Carter's having a fantastic year, but outside of him, you've got to find your receivers. Like that's why you're not in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
I haven't watched enough Cardinals ball, and I just know that we pooped on them. And that's not good for them.
I know because I remember watching a interview with him. He's like, I want to get Marvin Harrison Jr. ball because I know everyone's asking him, Marvin Harrison, like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't you getting a ball? He's like, I'm just doing what I'm doing. I can only control what I can control. Same with Malik Neighbors' situation. He's like, I can only do what I can do. It's these coaches, it's the schemes, it's whatever you want to call it, quarterback. I can only do my part. I can only beg for the ball so much, but I can only get it whenever I get it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The talent's there, the tools are there. There's talent at the wide receiver position and the tight end position. I don't know what is quite going on with them. They seem to
Because
get into like just
I,
funks every game.
in my opinion, for next season, they're gonna have to really look at the quarterback and be like, "What's going on here?"
I don't think it's Kyler Murray. I don't know. But like I said, I
I
don't want
mean,
to. For sure, I
he
haven't watched enough. Like I
he
said, I
ran
haven't watched
Cliff
enough Cardinals games.
he ran Cliff Kingsbury out,
Debatable. It's debatable.
so
But outside of the mid, if the season were to end today, let's look at the NFC. Lions get their bye. So we'd have Eagles, Commanders. Who you taking?
I mean, on paper, it's gonna be the Eagles just because Saquon Barkley's having a monster year. He's not really getting hurt.
I unfortunately would
Jalen
have to agree.
Jalen finally showed that he can pass the ball, and whenever he passes, it's successful. So, but do I see him overtaking the Lions for the number one seed? Probably
No. Did you see the video of them celebrating when we beat them? Have you seen that yet?
not. Who, the Lions or
Yeah. So it's the Lions. It's Dan Campbell was giving his presser, and like 10 seconds in, he's like in the middle of talking. You just hear the locker room erupt into cheers, and the reporter was just like, "Yeah, hey, Commanders just beat the Eagles. That's what they get." And Dan's like, "That's what the guys are. That's what's going on back there." But
Oh,
Dan was funny. He was like,
I
"Let's
thought you
just let
meant
this thing play out."
the way you said it. I thought you meant you beat the Lions. I was like, wait, what? I don't think you guys
No,
beat
the
us, but
Lions celebrating that we beat
yeah,
the
yeah,
Eagles.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was funny.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with you there. Rams, Packers. Who you got? I'm going Green Bay.
I would say the Packers because Jordan Love has been
Balling,
when he's playing, he is playing
hooping.
lights out. And the Rams are winning games, but they're not. That offense hasn't clicked the past 2 weeks like it has in previous weeks I've seen. It's Cooper
They're
Cup's not
very
really getting the
wishy
ball that
washy.
much. Kyron Williams is a stud. I like him a lot.
I've
He's
always loved Staffy.
the running back. Stafford's always going to be himself. It's just something in that offense slowed down. I don't know what it is, but I hope they pick it back up before the playoffs start up.
And it's not even that, and their defense isn't bad by any stretch of the mean. They're not bad, but they're certainly not what they used to be. That's not the Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey prime,
No,
Super Bowl Ram defense. But yeah, I think Jordan Love is quietly having one of the best seasons no one's talking about. It's not like, oh, the best season we've ever seen from a quarterback, but how well of a season he is having, I don't hear his name a lot. So there, I think the Packers are quietly a sleeping dark horse.
well, I mean, outside of the
I don't know
Bears,
why I
the whole
said
NFC
sleeping.
North is on fire.
That is very, very true.
Look at the Vikings; they're 13-2 with Sam
Very
Darnold,
that isn't that. I mean, that's the best division in football this year. Has to be.
hands down.
NFC East is up there. The Giants really, really, really weigh us down. The Cowboys are mid, but then we have us and then the Eagles. So that's another good division. So then last but not least, we would have Atlanta and Minnesota. And I think we're both going to take the Vikings here. The Falcons
Yeah, it doesn't.
stink.
Even if whether it's the Falcons or the Bucks, I don't see either of them beating the Vikings,
I don't see how they have 8 wins. I really don't. That's impressive.
especially with benching Kirk Cousins.
That was also very surprising. Um, okay, so we don't have to go through the whole shebang, but I do want to do that. And who's your NFC conference rep? Who would you say right now is going to the bowl if you had to?
I don't want to say this because I really don't want to like seem like I'm dick riding, but I really do think the Eagles might go back because the Lions are hurt and they have a
Yeah,
fucking book of injuries. Excuse my language, but they have a book of injuries that just tallies way more than a hospital could.
it's crazy.
And I
That's
really think that's gonna hurt them in the postseason. Not maybe not the first game, but definitely like the conference championship.
so I'd have to look at their injury report. I don't know the severity of who. I know they've lost a lot of people, but are they down and out? So here's where they're at. You got 2 weeks left, but you are still fighting for the first round bye. So unfortunately, if the Eagles want to keep scrapping, they can't call it quits yet. They have to at least play through next week. But obviously, the guys that aren't hurt, or the guys that are hurt, aren't playing. So you got 2 weeks, and if all goes well, they get their bye. So they have 3 weeks before they have to play a playoff game. B, they get an extra week, assuming they win, before they'd even have to play the Eagles, because the Eagles also have to win. They ain't playing each other in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, if we are both on the same page of an NFC championship of Detroit and Philly, they have about a month to get their guys back.
A lot of their guys are out for the season, though. I know
Ah,
the big ones are
I didn't
David
know that.
Montgomery and
Hutch, right? Aiden Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson and a lot more defensive pieces and
They
offensive
just
pieces.
lost their top DB. I can't think of his name. I
It's not Brian
believe.
Branch.
Maybe I'm thinking. No, it was them. Let's see.
The Lions lost their prime DB.
I thought so. So Montgomery. It is. It's Brian Branch.
Brian
Calf.
Branch is out.
Questionable.
Like just
He's questionable. He's not out. Okay.
okay, okay, yeah.
So maybe I was thinking of somebody else. But no, they do. They do. I'm looking at their injury report now. I mean, only 2 guys are listed as out, Montgomery and Reeves. And then obviously we know the guys that went to IR. So, yeah, that is definitely a problem.
And speaking of injuries, did you see that Tank Dell injury?
I didn't see it, but I did hear about it. But I didn't
It
like
was
physically watch it.
it was a CJ Stroud threw a touchdown pass to him, but his
Hospital
teammate and
ball.
then no,
No?
not by any means.
Okay.
No,
Good.
it was like a 30-40 yard touchdown pass to the back of the end zone, but his teammate was falling down also, and then the two Chiefs players collided with both of them. It was a very weird play to
Yeah.
where ultimately his knee got shattered, like his knee was dislocated, torn
Oh, yep.
ACL,
He
and
tore it off. That's what I read.
or
Yep.
other ligaments got messed up,
That
so he's
sucks.
done.
Yeah, that sucks.
So in 2 seasons, he's gotten shot, broken fibula, and now he pretty much needs a restructured knee.
He must have pissed somebody off in New Orleans.
Something must have happened to
They got
him.
they
Like
got that they got that voodoo on him. That poor guy.
they were playing the Chiefs though, so it makes sense.
That Kansas City barbecue. But I think I might have to agree with you. The Eagles are so good. Damn it. I said it last. I think we said it what last. I think I said it last episode or 2 episodes ago. They're just so stacked, and the defense is good. Hey. Well, hopefully we get him in the first round and we can get him out of there.
Hopefully 2 years in a row to get upset.
All right, real quick. Let's wrap this thing up. AFC. technically the Bills can still get the first round bye. I don't think they will. So we're going to keep it as is. Kansas City's going to get that week 1 bye. First matchup, Buffalo, Denver. Who you got?
Buffalo.
Yeah,
That's,
that wouldn't even be a close one. That'd be a bad
it
game.
would be. I do think there's a chance for it to be close
If they play how they did against you guys, yes.
yeah,
And that
because the
Denver
Broncos
defense
defense
is kind
isn't.
of dirty.
Right, Broncos defense aren't slouches. They definitely
They're
can
like
get it done.
they're like top 5, top 3 level if I recall.
Yep,
So, you're right there, and Bo Nix, he can do
it's
some
not
things.
bad.
We could have an interesting game, but yeah, I'm gonna take Buffalo. I'm with you on that one. We would have Pittsburgh, Los Angeles. That actually low key might be the best first round matchup in the entire NFL right there. That'd be a good one.
It depends on what Russell Wilson we get, but then it also depends on what Justin Herbert we get.
I think I'm gonna take the Chargers in that one.
I take the Steelers.
Yeah,
I
ooh,
think
it's gonna be
I
fun to
think
revisit.
that their defense is still stacked. TJ Watt's gonna eat.
I thought he was hurt.
Nah,
No,
he won't be hurt by playoff time.
okay. I'm still gonna take Los Angeles. I don't know. I think it's their time. It's their time to shed the accusations. Uh
But and unless this Ravens take the Steelers spot,
Yeah, which they can. They're both 10-5 right now, but
yeah,
as of right now, Pittsburgh has the tiebreaker, so they have to finish with a better record. I'm gonna be honest with you though. I hope this stands as a. My best friend's a Ravens fan, so I got a lot of love for them. So yeah, I would like to see them be able to host their playoff games, but for the sake of being a football fan, Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, I think that's a really good game. I just said it could be one of the best ones of the opening playoffs if it holds. This
it would be
is
cool though to see the Harbaughs face each other in the playoffs.
Ooh, that would be really cool. Damn. But I was gonna say this one also, as it stands, Houston, Baltimore. That'd be an insane round 1 matchup.
It's the Ravens. The I mean
Don't do them like that.
the Texans are outside of they're without Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell now. They just picked up Deontay Johnson
I
today off waivers,
saw
but
that could be very
hope,
interesting.
hopefully like yeah, actually be used rather than just be held because to not go to another team, which is why I think the Ravens got him in the first place.
Yeah. So here's my hot take that I've never put this out there publicly. This is gonna be the first. This is world premiere for potential bad takes. Um, I might be the only human being on the face of this planet who doesn't see it with CJ Stroud. I don't think he's bad. I think he's a great quarterback, but when people talk about CJ Stroud, they talk as if he's like one of the best in the league type best. I know he was just a rookie last year, and they did say he had like the best rookie season ever. But I've been watching a little bit more. I've been paying a little bit more attention this season, and it's just I haven't really I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. You know?
He's had a great year with his starters. You know, Nico Collins is a top receiver, and pairing him with Stephon Diggs just made them like light years ahead better. It's just now they're dealing with injuries that are like messing them up. Joe Mixon's on the squad. That's how taking a lot of load off of him. I know Damian Pierce is playing secondary too
I guess.
for running backs.
Excuse me. I guess they also did go from like a laughing stock level team to like a legitimate playoff threat for 2 years in a row now. So,
Yep.
like I said, it wasn't like I'm saying he's bad or anything. I think I'm leaning towards more is this guy overhyped? You know what I mean? Um, I'm looking at that and I think I'm going with Lamar. Lamar versus CJ playoffs. I might have.
As a team dynamic, they're just better.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. But all right. So with that being said, if same situation, if you had to pick one of these teams right now to represent the AFC to go to the bowl, who you going with? I am going to go with. I've actually picked this team 3 weeks ago, and I'm not changing. I think it's Buffalo.
I do think it's Buffalo. I don't think the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs' luck's running out this year. They've used the water luck early in
It's
the season,
so insane to say that to a 14-1 team, but I fully agree with you.
but I don't doubt any of the Steelers or the Ravens could upset at all because they are not bad teams either. Especially the Ravens. I wouldn't doubt them sneaking an upset and going to the Super Bowl.
That would be, if I had to pick, that would be my, yeah, that'd be my backup team to get in there, Baltimore.
Yep. So I think that's about pretty much where it is. Podcast will end today.
Yeah, we are at an hour and a half. We definitely, like I said, I had some things I had to get off my chest, so I'm glad I got to get it out there. Um, but yeah, I think that would be. I mean, if we were correct there, that would be quite an interesting playoff scenario: Buffalo and the Eagles. But yes, that'll wrap up this one. So thank you, Vic, for your hour and a half tonight, and thank you to anybody who checks this out. And until next time, we will see you guys next episode.